2 years after the OceanGate Titan submersible imploded in the Atlantic near the wreckage of the Titanic, killing 5 people on board, including the company's co-founder, pilot, and CEO, we're getting some official answers today about why the tragedy occurred. The U.S. Coast Guard has now released its report calling the incident a preventable disaster. Its investigation largely blames the company, OceanGate, for several contributing factors, including, quote, inadequate design, certification, maintenance, and inspection process for the sub. The report says that all 5 people on board died instantaneously. CNN's Tom Foreman is with us now. Tom, what more did investigators find here?
This is a fascinating report, and let me tell you, through these hundreds of pages, the message is simple enough. This was badly designed, badly maintained, badly operated. They dodged all forms of inspection of this, and that's why 5 people died. If you look at some of the details, they talked about the design of this thing. There's a carbon fiber hull that basically is glued to these rings at the end where they put the caps on. These people are bolted inside. There is no way for them to get out under any circumstances without somebody outside helping them. No meaningful analysis on the life cycle of a carbon fiber hull. Carbon fiber sounds like a big word. It's a great material. It's wonderful, but it is these interlaced layers, and carbon fiber is either great or it has totally failed. There's not a lot of in between. When it starts failing, it fails. They weren't watching that carefully enough. They were over-relying on a real-time monitoring system. They had little sound systems, that was sensors on the hull of this thing that were basically listening to see if it was cracking. And if they had enough signs, well, maybe this thing's going to fail, we need to get out of here. And they had sensed problems before, which they just glossed right over and kept using it. I've spoken to engineers about this. Honestly, unless you were going to do really, really robust testing on that hull every single time, you could have seen this as a single-use submersible. Use it once, retire it, build a new one because of the pressure on this thing. The hull was used after these previous incidents. We talked about the design and the construction of the hull. Then the failure to investigate after significant damage in previous dives. They just kept going forward. They cited in this company a culture of being much more worried about, are we meeting cost targets here? Are we getting enough customers? How can we make this work? That was the real focus, not on keeping this going forward. And they stored it outdoors in Canada during winter, exposing it to extreme temperature fluctuations. When this happened, automatically the red flags among engineers went just right in the air, because they're saying, how did you build this thing? How did you operate this thing? How did you rely on a system? When they were going up and down, their communications was an abbreviated text messaging system, where if they wanted to know if they had communications up top, they would just send the letter K. That was the only thing, and then up top would try to tell them something else. They couldn't talk to anyone up top. They were having communications problems that day, which might have been a signal to say halfway down, turn it around, come back up, but that is not what happened. The one real, a positive, but it's such dark positive news out of all of this, is that when this happened, they were approaching 2.3 miles down, something like that. The amount of force at that level is close to 5,000 pounds per square inch. So when they say a catastrophic failure, unless they had some warning inside, some indication, they heard something, unless that happened, this truly collapsed so quickly nobody on board would know that anything was even beginning to happen. It would be over. But we do know this, in this report, people standing on the ship, the Polar Prince above, said, hey, what was that bang? They felt it up there. And one of the engineers later on who operated the ship said later on, he said, yeah, he said, in retrospect, I felt like there was a shudder in the ship at that moment. An hour and a half after they left, all of that added up into a completely preventable tragedy, and this report confirms it.
Yeah, it's so sad.
It is just, it's worth going online and reading it to see how people can get carried away and commit the most terrible mistakes.
Yeah. Tom, thank you so much for taking us through that. Really appreciate it.
Just in, a preventable disaster. That's how the newly released U.S. Coast Guard report is framing the loss of the Titan submersible. Here it is on the floor of the North Atlantic. The vessel imploded during a dive back in June of 2023 on the way to the Titanic, killing 5 people.
For the latest, we are joined by CNN national correspondent Jason Carroll. Jason, what key findings can you share with us from this 300-page report?
Well, Pamela, first things first. The findings of this Coast Guard report will, in all likelihood, come as no surprise to several of OceanGate's former employees who, you'll remember, testified last September about many of the problems, many of the safety issues that they saw, issues that they also saw with OceanGate's former CEO, Stockton Rush. Now, this new report from the Marine Board of Investigation concluded, as you say, this was an accident that was preventable. The report also outlined several contributing factors that led to the implosion, saying in a statement, the board determined the primary contributing factors were OceanGate's inadequate design, certification, maintenance, and inspection process for the Titan. For example, the board found that OceanGate didn't bother to investigate safety issues with the Titan's hull after an incident back in 2022 where a loud banging was heard. OceanGate's former employees had testified the company was doing all that it could to cut corners. The report also found that the company did all that it could to avoid oversight by the scientific community, saying Mr. Rush, in his dual role as CEO and as the acting master or pilot of the Titan submersible, exhibited negligence that contributed to the deaths of 4 individuals. Now, when all 5 people perished on board the Titan, this report is the result of a 2-year investigation. And as you guys know, more is to come. We're still awaiting the results from the National Transportation Safety Board, which is doing its own investigation into the cause of the implosion.
Well, let me follow up. Could Stockton Rush himself have faced charges if he survived?
In all likelihood, Wolf, you're absolutely right, because the Marine Board of Investigation also found evidence of what they called potential criminal offense on the part of Stockton Rush. And had he survived, in all likelihood, they would have referred the matter to the Department of Justice, which then would have taken a look at it to see if criminal prosecution was warranted. Wolf?
Jason Carroll reporting for us. Jason, thank you very much.